Welcome to the New York section of SME, the Society for Mining, Metallurgy, and Exploration, an international society of AIME of more than 13,000 professionals serving the minerals industry in more than 100 countries. Today is December 8th, 2020. Thank you for attending NYSME's virtual symposium titled Strengthening Critical Minerals Supply Chains in North America, featuring the key role of Quebec. This panel is titled Traceability, Enabling Transparency, Accountability, and Circularity, a Battery Case Study. The moderator of this panel discussion is Simon Thibault, Director of Propulsion Quebec. The panel will now begin.
Welcome everyone to this panel today on traceability in the battery sector. I think if there's any item of very, very high interest right now for the whole industry is really all about the ESG compliance, environmental, social, governance compliance of the battery sector. A lot of people have been complaining about EV cars not being that green, but what we see on the industry side today is a lot of change happening. We see companies being devoted to producing greener batteries, and this is happening all along the value chain. And what better way actually to assess this compliance with environmental, social, and governance aspects along the value chain than traceability? And I mean, we've been using traceability mechanisms in many other industries, so why not in the mining industry, and why not in the manufacturing industry, and why not all along the value chain? So today's panel, which I'm really, really happy to host, and actually I'll be presenting myself. I'm Simon Thibault, Director of Regulation and Public Policy for Propulsion Quebec. And as you can see on the deck here, we have quite a panel today. So I'll let them introduce themselves and shortly present who they are, what they do, what their company is all about, and what role they play along this value chain, and how they can help produce green batteries in what they're doing. So let's start first with Matty Stanislas from the Global Battery Alliance. Hi, Matty.
Hello, everyone. I'm Matty Stanislas, serving as the interim director of the Global Battery Alliance. The Global Battery Alliance, as shown in front of you, is a multi-stakeholder across the value chain effort. On the private side, we have everything from mining, minerals processing, chemicals, to cell and battery manufacturing, to automobiles, energy companies, and tech companies. On the public side, we have a number of governments, we have a number of governmental organizations, and then we have a number of civil society and academic organizations. Next slide. So the GBA is formed around, again, a multi-stakeholder effort to realize this vision. One is a vision where there's a 30% emission reduction of the transport and power sector, and a 50% reduction in greenhouse emissions of manufacturing of batteries. To realize that, just want to bring your attention to the need to increase battery demand, and the key levers that we've identified are significantly circular economy levers, extending the life of batteries, extending the utilization of batteries, but also authenticating provenance. So that is why our major flagship effort is something called a battery passport, which is a public assurance platform to authenticate data against prescribed measures. We're currently focusing on greenhouse gas, provenance, as related to child labor, and battery ID. I will stop there. Looking forward to the conversation.
Thanks a lot, Matty, for introducing us to the Global Battery Alliance. I think one of the most promising initiative worldwide on traceability in the battery industry. And actually, we at Propulsion Quebec are pretty proud to be a member of the Global Battery Alliance. Another key member of the Global Battery Alliance, and also a member of, soon-to-be member of Propulsion Quebec, Optel Group. Florent, can you please present yourself and Optel Group?
Thank you. Hi, everyone from Quebec, and thanks, Simon, for the introduction. Thanks for all the organization team for that event. My name is Florent Bouguin, Vice President and Chief Technology Officer for Optel Group. Optel is a Canadian multinational company with 4 sites of operations in India, Ireland, Brazil, and our headquarters in Quebec City, Canada, with a global presence in more than 30 countries. Our 32 years of proven expertise in developing traceability solutions and vision systems allow us to deploy our intelligent supply chain platform in the global operations of our clients in the life science industry, consumer packaged goods, and of course, natural resources. So our platform provides transparency, security, and sustainability of the value chain. Because we are leading by example, we are proud to be a B Corp certified. Very pleased to exchange with all of you today and to be part of the global battery journey. Thank you.
Thanks, Florent, for this brief explanation of the role playing by Optel Group, not just in the mining industry, but everywhere in multiple supply chains. If there's a key player right now in the mining industry, I mean, a hot one, dynamic CEO, dynamic company, Nouveau Monde Graphite, and we have the pleasure to have Eric Desaulniers on the line here. Eric, can you please introduce yourself briefly and the company?
Thanks, Simon. You're too nice with me. Thank you for inviting me here. And I'm super happy to see the face of all my partners in the Traceability project. So I'm Eric Desaulniers. I'm the founder and CEO of Nouveau Monde Graphite. So at Nouveau Monde Graphite, we're developing today what is the largest future graphite operation in the Western world. We are fully vertically integrated from the ore and flake production on one project 2 hours north of Montreal in Saint-Michel-des-Saints, and the transformation from flake graphite into battery anode material in Bécancour. So I think our project is very well suited to be fully traceable. And we're developing this project in a carbon neutral way, thanks to our all electric operation at our mining site and our hydroelectricity, very affordable, very abundant, and very green in Quebec. So I'm super happy to talk with you all today.
Thanks, Eric, for this brief introduction. And as you mentioned, I think one of the most promising thing happening right now in the battery industry in Quebec is this traceability project, a partnership actually of pretty much on the line today, everybody on the line today. So Nouveau Monde Graphite collaborating with Optel Group, and this being an affiliated project with the Global Battery Alliance. And I know also at Lithion Recycling, you're working as well on traceability, and you have some kind of partnership with Scale AI. But just before this, Yves, can you please introduce yourself and talk about Lithion Recycling a little bit?
Good. Thanks, Simon. Thanks to the organizing committee there for inviting us on this panel. I'm super happy as well there to be here. Briefly there, if we go to the next slide there, you'll see the next one, please. Yeah, you'll see briefly there a little summary of Lithion Recycling there. Basically there, we've developed a technology there to recover 95% of the strategic and critical materials of lithium-ion battery, and also from production waste throughout the production cycle there. We're currently operating a industrial scale pilot plant since the beginning of the year, and we are advancing the engineering and the final design of a first commercial plant. And in parallel to that, we are talking with some strategic partners to license our technology in North America, Europe, and Asia as well. And as you will see on the next slide, we are a sister company of Seneca, that is an engineering firm specialized in process development. So we're very spoiled to have them with us. Basically, we have access to their breadth of knowledge. You will see on the next slide there that one of the pain that we are addressing, or we see that as an opportunity, is the fact that in 2030, 10 years from now, there would be about 20% of the sales will be EVs, up to 35 in 2040, and that would generate about 6 million battery packs to recycle. Now, 6 million battery packs, to give you an idea, it's about 1.5 million pounds, kilos of batteries to recycle. Closer to us, if you take what Propulsion Quebec studied there, it's estimated that between 45 and 95,000 tons of batteries will be up to recycle in 2025 in the Northeast, North America. The second pain that we address is on the next slide, and this is production waste that are generated throughout the manufacturing chain, especially at the cathode and at the cell manufacturing, estimated to be about 1.5 million full battery packs, thus about 500,000 tons of 500,000 kilos of waste. And you see on the bottom right there those quantities that could be recycled with our technology. Last slide, you will see that this is the main criteria that Lithium took into account when developing its roadmap to commercialization. I won't go through all of them, but one that is important is the technology that has to be robust enough to take any chemistry of batteries at any state of charge. Finally, we are, as Simon mentioned, they're part of a traceability project with Scale AI to ensure that our recycled material are ESG compliant and manufactured with the least possible carbon footprint. So back to you, Simon.
Many thanks, Yves. And I think you mentioned a lot of very interesting point, actually, as everybody else. But there's kind of a need also for having everybody working together. What's interesting as part of this panel is that we see people being active at multiple places along the value chain. You know, we at Propulsion Quebec, as an industrial cluster, we have more than 180 members in Quebec who are fully dedicated to the smart and electric mobility sector. But that is for Quebec. There's kind of a need for more globally aligned actions. And Matthew, getting back to you on this, you briefly explain what is the Global Battery Alliance, and very shortly touch on the Battery Passport project, which is the traceability mechanism that you're working on with a bunch of industrials, academics, institutions. Being involved in this project here at Propulsion Quebec and with the pilot project I was talking, I can confirm, and I mean, everybody on this panel can confirm the very high interest institutions, governments, industrials have in this project, in the Global Battery Alliance project. But in your opinion, what is so attractive about this thing, about the Battery Passport? I mean, such a wide range of organizations do support its development. Where do you see as the added value in there?
Well, I would say two very important things. One is the multi-stakeholder approach, and the second is authentication, right? You know, when we talk to some of the largest companies who are participating in the supporting the Battery Passport, and recently some of the largest EV companies, they say, listen, we think we're a leader, but we're in a world where even their investors are saying, you need to prove it to us through traceability and data. We no longer can trust your self-interested sustainability reports, right? And you need to authenticate that based on standards developed through a multi-stakeholder way. You need to authenticate it in an independent way, and you need to do it through data. I mean, while we're in an era of data, the real question, and I think the real value proposition of the Battery Passport is, how do you access the data to enable the authentication so that, you know, greenhouse gas claims are viewed as legitimate and confident across the value chain by government, by civil society, where chain of custody for provenance is trusted. So no longer will company representation be viewed as good enough. So there's an opportunity to grapple with some of the difficult questions of enabling that, but also putting in place the protection schemes so that only the right kind of data is made available for particular users, right? So the recyclers would need to know chemistry, nothing else. Repurposers may need to know a small amount of dynamic data, not the whole spectrum of dynamic data. Manufacturers to their suppliers will need to know the full greenhouse gas footprint of all their suppliers and provenance of materials. So I think it's a real opportunity to drive the authentication and frankly refute some of the criticisms that, for example, battery manufacturing it has a huge greenhouse gas footprint, so there should be investment in that. You know, so I think it's an opportunity to really scale, as I mentioned earlier, the 30% greenhouse gas reduction through both innovation, but also investment or confident investment to realize that. Thank you.
Yeah, but following a little bit on this, a lot of people are talking about the added value, let's say upstream of the global batch reliance, meaning that ESG compliance all along the value chain. But I've seen also a lot of players, especially industrials, seeing this as well as a tool for quality control and performance. So linking potentially also good ESG, environmental and social performance, with good technical performance. Do you see this also happening in the industry right now?
Well, I would actually expand it even further, right? So it's not just ESG requirements, it's, yeah, so it's frankly distinguishing high performers from low performers, enabling downstream to selectively select in a neutral way the highest performers. That's one. It is enabling the key issues around safety for repurposing. It is enabling data to drive increased investment, right? So when I talk to recyclers, the access to chemistry data could reduce the cost of recycling by 25% or more. Access to certain forms of dynamic data could increase the value proposition of repurposing by 75%, or put it reverse, reduce the intense back-end testing by 75%. So it's not just ESG, it's a tremendous value proposition, which is different in different parts of the value chain.
Thanks a lot. That's exactly what I've been thinking, and having numbers and real insights from you is really promising, actually. Also, on the other hand, to do this, we need companies like Optel Group to establish, and others to establish the mechanism. So how do we track that data? You referred, Matty, to authentication, but we need that authentication to be done using softwares and equipments. And Optel Group actually is a leading provider of traceability. And Florent, you've been very much involved in the pharmaceuticals, medical devices, hospitals, even artisanal mining in Congo. I think you had some projects there with artisanal gold mining. I mean, we do not have enough time today just to list all the major clients that you have at Optel Group. And I'm really proud of this, being somebody from Quebec City, and Optel Group being based in Quebec City, but also multiple offices around the world. But Optel now, you're a lot into mining, manufacturing, recycling. You're in the aluminum industry, in the battery value chain. So, I mean, why is Optel now jumping that much in that industry? And how do you see traceability? Sorry.
So Simon, could I just say that Optel Group was the key anchor to making the battery passport happen? I mean, they're the ones that invested in kind, really scoped it out. I'm a tremendous partner all along. Sorry, but I just wanted to say that.
No, you absolutely. That's good. We like it that way. In a real life panel, we would just be talking like this. So I prefer this. Thanks a lot, Matty. But yeah. So Florent, jumping on what Matty just said, why is it that so? Why is Optel so involved in traceability technologies today in the battery sector, and more largely in the clean energy transition?
Thank you, Matti and Simon. Maybe just to explain, Optel, our aim is to impact the world, and we all know that planetary boundary is a concept aimed to define the environmental limits within which humanity can safely operate. And we do not have today enough minerals for our future generation, graphite, lithium, for instance. So we need to act. Industry needs to improve supply chain efficiency, reduce waste, empower circularity. It is time to act. And we believe that the digitalization of the value chain will contribute, especially in the case of responsible sourcing for critical minerals. So saying that, now you were mentioning, Simon, about the aluminium, and you're right. The aluminium industry was looking at developing a solution aimed at securing the new US, Mexican, Canadian trading space while creating value for Quebec's low carbon aluminium. And it was a perfect fit to deploy our platform for that specific need. We are now digitizing the Canadian aluminium value chain to support respect of trade agreements first, to block insertion of non-Canadian aluminum in Canada and the US, second. And third, to leverage Canadian competitiveness, which is the green aluminum. And coming back to your question about the global battery, this is important for Optel to collaborate on the battery case study, to highlight the sustainable value chain of the strategic and critical minerals sourced in Quebec, and to bring trust in the data. So the deployment of our traceability platform will allow us to assess in real time and with authentic data the environmental and social footprint of the mineral value chain, and of course then to improve it. So from extraction, we have a couple of partners here, to recycling, and again, partners are around the table, via transformation and of course distribution steps. And just to finish on that, to answer maybe Simon, it is part of a holistic vision to deploy a traceability solution of the critical minerals used in the manufacturing of electrical batteries for responsible sourcing.
Thanks. And actually, what I find very interesting about this is that all this seems brand new for a lot of us in the mining industry, but actually, you're not reinventing the wheel at all. You're using tools
the actual technology.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's not new tech. It's just you're using tools that have been used in the food industry for years, and now you're applying it for the battery industry.
It's I mean, you're right. It's just a configuration of the platform, if I can say that. And we are using proven technologies. Today, you know, technologies are affordable. We can now connect to IoT sensors. We can connect to the cloud. We can connect even to satellites, Simon, for very reduced cost. And this is accessible. So why not using that? It's proven, it works, and we have the perfect use case to transform.
Great. Thanks a lot again, Florent. And I'll get back to one of the very first sentence you mentioned when you just talk is changing the world. We want to impact the world. And I mean, I'll switch to Eric here. I mean, Nouveau Monde Graphite is quite unique in the industry. Not only is the business model really based on best environmental and social practices, carbon neutrality, being carbon neutral is at the core of what Nouveau Monde's doing, fully electric open pit mining operations. A lot of people are doing underground, very few people looking at open pit, fully electric mining operations. And by the way, amazing YouTube videos as well. So if ever you have some 2, 3, 5 minutes, go out there. There's some very interesting stuff on the YouTube channel of Nouveau Monde. But all this YouTube channel, core business being around ESG compliance, it's not common in our industry. But on the other end, many people still doubt that, you know, having such a strong ESR compliant corporate strategy does really pay off. Eric, on this, you know, on transforming your good practices, best practices into added value for your shareholders, for the companies, do you see traceability as a tool to do that?
For sure. When you do the right things, you need to be fully traceable to prove it to your customer and to the consumer. So what I would say about that, it's our project specifically, when you sell a product to a car maker or a battery maker, we're at the forefront of what mining can do. And we're the closest probably in mining to the consumer and to the people voting for governments. So what we see in our shareholder base is we have more and more of impact fund, of green funds, of people who never thought they would invest in an open pit mine before. And now we are getting those investors who want to change something in their investment. And this is super important for us. And especially in Europe, when you talk to a consumer, a customer in Europe, I mean, an OEM, a car maker, these guys are now receiving penalties if they are not decarbonizing their supply chain. For every ICE car they sell, they need to sell 2 EV, otherwise they have penalty to pay. It's billions of dollars of penalties for those guys. So they are really interested to apply a premium to carbon neutrality, and it's our job to prove that we can do that. Our business, we are 100% competing with the Chinese market. Like 100% of the graphite today going in a lithium-ion battery is coming from China. yes, we can be sustainable on the cost, and that's important to be sustainable on that front, but we need to bring more value to our customer. And we need to bring that value comes from the carbon neutrality, and now it's becoming more and more of a premium because they have a penalty if they don't go otherwise. And we're allowing them also to be diversifying and de-risking their procurement thanks to our localization. So it's not only fighting on cost and on quality, it's now fighting also on sustainability. And on that front in Quebec, thanks to our advantage, competitive advantage, having partner like Uptel, having partner like the recycling companies, we need to make an ecosystem where we're fully circular. And I can tell you, our customer, they do have softwares, they do have LCA analysis, life cycle analysis, very detailed one. They look at your process, and because they need to be compliant, they need to prove to regulators that they are getting closest to carbon neutral possible. So for us, it is direct related to cost, to price premium for our product, but also attracting new shareholders who are looking for the right investment that will make a difference and that will be part of the new economy.
And on this, so I understand you have more attraction, more attention being paid to you by impact investors, responsible investors, OEMs that do have responsible sourcing policies. But you did mention something there, prime value. Do you expect, like in the short or maybe midterm, to have, let's say, a green graphite price and a black graphite price? Do you see something like this happening in the industry?
I see already we have discussions with customers, especially in Europe. As I said, these guys, it's penalties, so it's easy for them to apply a premium that they would prefer to pay right away instead of buying a carbonized product. So we see it directly in Europe. We don't see it yet in the United States, to be honest. And we're really confident that the voters now have decided in the United States that the new president will probably be one of the greenest president ever if the Green Act is to be officially passed. And we are really confident that the US situation will change and there will be a premium paid for decarbonized supply chain. And that's what we started to do in Nouveau Monde in 2017. We are well advanced in the development of our all-electric mine. And we're looking forward sharing that knowledge with all the other miners in the world. We want all the mines to be fully electrified. It's not our proprietary data. We're happy to share because, our product goes in their all-electric fleet. So obviously it's something very interesting for us to be part of that circular economy.
Good, thanks a lot, Eric. And you're making actually the perfect relay, or let's say really the perfect relay for lithium recycling there. Yves, I mean, that's a really nice story, what's been happening with lithium recycling. I think it was last year, there were startups and sites that analyzed more than 80 battery recycling projects worldwide, and lithium recycling was selected among the top 5 solutions to watch out internationally. On top of this, as you mentioned, Scale AI Challenge, you won this, you're part of this. There's a traceability project ongoing with Scale AI out there using artificial intelligence algorithms as tools for industry stakeholders really to meet what they're, exactly what Eric was mentioning, the requirements that they have to be greener. So why not introducing recycled materials there? From my standpoint, this really demonstrates the need to have a coordinated approach. Not just recyclers working on one side, but recyclers working with OEMs, with people like Nouveau Monde, companies like Nouveau Monde Graphite and others that we have in Quebec, Nemska Lithium and all this. You have a quite vast experience in the industry and at various steps of the supply chain. What's your views actually on this need for collaboration, and how is lithium recycling fitting in?
Thanks, Simon. Well, there's a definite need there for traceability throughout the value chain. I agree with you. If you look there, when Seneca started that project, I mean, they were visionary in various aspects. One of them was to basically establish path to success. That's easy there. but also there on the full circularity side and full traceability and transparency there were basically core values for them. So and also their other important point was to maintain the products here in North America and in Quebec and develop a local ecosystem there. So just wanted to make sure that the efforts put in extracting all of those materials are not lost when the batteries come at the end of their life. So for us, in a nutshell, what we see as benefits for traceability are in threefold. Well, I'll start with us, Lithion, as the company processing those batteries. Well, Matty alluded to it there. I mean, he talked about 30% cost reduction for recycling with traceability. I don't know if it's going to be that much or maybe higher than that, but what I can tell you there, if there would be a way to simply know the chemistry that would of the waste batteries that are coming in, that would allow us to also dose the chemistry more efficiently, not overdosing and hurting the environment. Also there, I mean, the waste batteries can be segregated and processed in similar chemistries. Also there, if there's a need for dismantling, rather than having to shred all the battery itself, if we can dismantle it to a certain degree where it's very cost efficient and recover some of the battery components of the pack itself, for example, it can be returned to the supply chain, and then having a circularity at that level as well. The second point is of course on the battery manufacturers and OEM. I mean, both Eric and Florent mentioned about the traceability and the tracking system, easier logistics for them as well, getting certification that the materials they receive from Lithion are recycled and ESG compliant. I mean, for them also, they are looking for the carbon neutrality that Eric mentioned. I mean, that would be, again, another step into the right direction. And the third, to me, beneficiary would be the consumer himself. I mean, that would reassure the consumer that buying an EV is the right thing to do. As you alluded to, Simon, there, I mean, there's still some people thinking it's not the right thing to do because of the environmental impact of extracting all of those minerals. While they would definitely, the consumer would benefit from a full transparency and traceability there. Would confirm that the batteries that the cars and the batteries that they're buying are ESG compliant, and they would be in a position to certify that the presence of recycled material in their batteries, if I can speak for ourselves. So in the nutshell, those are the benefits that I see there for traceability.
And following on this, I mean, I think clearly the benefits there are all along the value chain, as you mentioned. So for companies like mining producers, recyclers, as well as consumers, definitely. But like, especially on recycling, I mean, to make this happen, isn't there a need for, I don't know, regulations, just or something like this? I know recently at Propulsion Quebec, we published a study on new regulatory mechanisms for managing end-of-life EV batteries. I know in Europe next week, actually today on December 8th, I think they'll be publishing the new batteries directive on managing end-of-life batteries. Do you see this as something that is needed in the industry, having some regulation or mechanism to force maybe in some way recycling, or at least proper end-of-life management?
Well, I would say the proper end-of-life management is key. That includes recycling, of course, and yes, the regulations would help definitely there. I mean, enlarged producer responsibility is one thing that would definitely drive innovation. It would drive the need for companies like us to accelerate the technology deployment and also the commercial operations. At the same time, having recycling, I would say, being forced by legislation itself is not always the right, I would say, the right approach. To me, it would be a global approach where everybody would be I would say, would be encouraged to recycle. Legislation would not allow the batteries to go out in the environment and being polluting the environment. So for me, I see, yes, a good positive, but on its own, it's not enough. Working with the company producing the virgin materials as well to make sure that we are fully aligned there and that we complete their portfolio offering is key. Recycling on its own will not solve 100% of the scarcity expected on those materials, but it would certainly contribute to it into a low carbon footprint and respecting the environment.
Thanks, Yves, and I fully agree with you. I don't think regulation on itself is a solution. I think it goes way beyond this, and it's really throughout the collaboration all on the value chain that we'll be able to have fully circular economy.
Yeah.
Okay, so before this panel, as you know, we prepared one last question open to everyone, but actually we covered it already. So I'll need you guys to really be ready for this next question, which you've never heard before, is how do you, I mean, if there was to make a wish list, okay, if there was something you would be hoping for this battery sector to develop in Quebec, but also develop globally and be as we wish it to be, so to be green, what is it exactly you're expecting from people listening to you? So consumers, yes, but mostly investors and government representatives. What is it, the one thing in your opinion that would be really helpful today to establish in Quebec and globally a really sustainable circular battery value chain? Matty, you're working face-to-face, or I mean screen-to-screen now with a lot of institutions and government representatives. What's your take on this? Oh, we'll need you to open your mic, please.
If there's one thing in the near term, and we've had conversations with the European Union Commission, we've had conversations, just yesterday I briefed the G20. If there's one thing, it is a global framework of data access, data protection, and the value proposition. One of my fears is that if you don't get the balance right, and in fact, there's a debate right now in the European Union, you may actually hinder the opportunities of traceability and authentication, right? So it's really important that there be a public-private conversation around what is the importance of a data framework, access, aggregation, and protection.
That is a very good point. And talking about data, but I think, Eric, you wanted maybe to say something here?
I wanted to answer your questions. So for me, the most important thing, because we are at the start of developing this economy, and I think it's super important to develop a resilient economy. What I mean by that is I'm super happy to see on that panel that we are already working with Uptel on traceability. So, you know, we have a relationship where we are important to Uptel, they are important to us. I think it will be the same thing with the recycling, because obviously, as Yves pointed out, we need roughly, if we want to electrify 1 billion cars, that's what we need to electrify. It's 100 million tons of graphite in the ground. So we can do it once, but we cannot do it many times. So we need to recycle. It's super important. And the resilient economy is the one where companies like Lithium will work with companies producing like us to make a fully circular economy. And when the battery maker comes, he understands, he fit at the right place. It takes time to understand the ecosystem. And we don't have time. There's enough market share. We don't have time to compete that much. We need to be fully integrated and develop a resilient economy. And that's super important. Same as we see in aerospace. And we want to do the same thing here in the lithium ion battery space.
Very good point. Thanks a lot on this. And just going back to data management, and thanks on this, Eric, really, really good insight. But going back to data management also is, I mean, Uptel, this is something you've been dealing with a lot, I mean, in the other industry. And do you see this as well? Do you see a solution to this? And just following up on my question, what would you be also your wish, your main wish for the industry to see this happening?
Let's say my wish list will be to put that on the ground, what we've just all discussed. We have the chance today to have innovator around that table. I'm so proud to share that moment with Eric, with Yves, and of course, Matty, with the vision that you have. Simon, you are part of the game. But now all the stakeholders, we have to materialize it. It's making pilot, but we need to accelerate. We need to learn and come with, success story on which we will learn. And then it will be, the start of the curve, and we will then influence with the early adopters, and we will help the regulations to start the regulation process, to put compliances in place, and then the rest will follow. We are at that moment, of incubation and innovators. We need to accelerate. And you were mentioning about the data. The data is key. The data privacy, data authenticity. And again, this is a learning process. That this is a value chain with their challenges. And we need to face these challenges. We need to face fast and to learn fast. And then we will have a resilient, as you've just mentioned, Eric, value chain and solution for that.
Thanks a lot on this. And Eve, oh, sorry, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, well, I want to just complement what was said by the other panelists here. From my point of view there, the biggest must happen there is the global coordination and going from the strong will to the strong actions. And I'll give you, again, an example of what we're living. I mean, the OEM want it, we're their recycling material, but the cell manufacturers have to be fully on board. And right now they're just rushing like hell to build mega factories. So to get their attention on the importance of reintroducing the recycled materials for that full circularity and full transparency and full traceability, I mean, it is a challenge because the industry is moving so fast. I mean, the auto industry, as you know, has been very conservative for years now. They're all switching electric. Everybody's rushing. But then you need their attention to make sure that they trace and that they use recycled material. So I would say that's the biggest challenge.
Thanks,
we'll buy your graphite, Eve. No need to sell to the cell maker. We'll buy your recycled graphite.
Well,
action line.
I mean, we'll just pursue our discussions.
Very good. I like this. I like this. I see that there's a lot of ongoing collaboration. So that's really, really promising. Guys, that was really interesting panel. Just very sadly, I know Matty has been having some issues. Part of the call, I think we lost him. But I want to thank you all really, truly for this very interesting presentation of yours, really interesting discussion. One of the most interesting panel I've attended recently. So thanks a lot. I want to thank the SME, the New York section of the SME also for organizing this, the government of Quebec for sponsoring and co-organizing the event. And of course, more than happy to continue collaborating with you in the future. And so looking forward to future collaboration. And again, thanks everybody.
Thank you all. Nice seeing you. Thanks, Simon, for the chairing the panel. Bye now.
Bye. Thanks, guys.